He's waiting for your mic. I doing something. Busy. Hungry and sleepy. I need a kick-ass coffee. My height is remember for the psychiatric. Order coffee. Huh? Go and have. So you can go with Hello. 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 Hello, Sukanya. Hi, Sukanya. If you have a connection like this, for the help of the students that we are going to contact. Today or only today in the evening? Okay. Okay, thank you. Please join the next. Hello. Hi, this is Hershakti. So, welcome to today's application. IT application is one of the join the platform. Hello. Hi, Sudarshan. Hi, good evening. Hi, Hershakti. Application. Please join the songs. Very nice. Some Kannada song. No? Mm. Fast. Huh? Right? For 9 days I'm fasting. Oh, evening evening, not full fast. I'll die. Navratri. Till Friday. Saturday, only. Saturday is Dasara. Liquid family. Sleepy, no? You are in some sleepy mood. Just, I don't know where I am. Going, coming. Oh, no. Hello, Sneha. Hello.
of those which you have noted down, and that becomes easy for us and also to prepare and come back and handle those queries in a much more effective way. That's the best way of doing it. Even if sometimes what happens is, you may not be able, you last minute you may get a doubt and you have not sent that across to me. That's fine. We can discuss those in the calls, but definitely we want you to come prepared in the session so that we utilize the time and we utilize Anuj as an SME to the maximum full extent. So that is what is. So team, hi, can we run that poll now? Is it possible to run the poll right now? Okay.
Yes.
I thought generally I'm very loud. I thought, okay, let me be little soft today. I will speak little louder. Normally, I don't need microphones. So I thought I'll be little soft, behave little. I will speak loud. That's fine.
Yeah, shall I start
Yeah,
poll,
please start
Abhishek?
the poll, ma'am. Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Are you able to see?
Yeah, if we are able to see, can you, I request all of you to take this poll, which will give us an understanding of, how, where to start and what to cover. I could see few people joining it right now. I request all of you to take this poll. We will keep it for another minute. Are we good? Do we need to keep it further?
I'm expecting a response from 37 people. Yes.
Ladies, request you all please participate in poll.
It is just for my understanding how much deep I should go into discussion, nothing else. So please do participate.
Hi, Abhijit. I have just one question. So this is regarding Automation Explorer and not Automation Developer Associate training that we are taking. Is it assumed that we have finished the Automation Developer Associate training and then moved on to Automation Explorer?
Let me answer that, Shankla, for you. Automation Explorer is just one of the component of associate training, right? So the schedule that I've shared earlier, it require you to complete Automation Explorer before this session. So that is what we are looking into.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do we have some answers by now?
I answered the poll wrong then. I'm sorry. I've finished Automation Explorer in that.
That's cool. That's cool. No worries. One or two wrong answers doesn't make sense. I need a holistic view. So do we have responses from many of them, if not all, so that we can start? Abhijit, please follow up on poll. I'll be here in a. Okay, Abhijit. Abhijit, am I audible?
You are, you are.
I'm saying just please follow up on the poll. I'll be here in a minute.
Yeah. So Avneet, I think most of them would have taken that poll. Can you send that results to us? I mean,
Yes, yes. Okay. Shall I stop? And if you are joining now again,
okay.
um,
I think let them join. That's fine. We'll go ahead.
yeah.
It is already 11:20.
Okay, okay, fine.
Can you
I'll share the result. Yeah.
share that results with us?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Are you able to see the results, sir? Abhijit?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
visible.
Yeah, yeah.
I can, yeah.
Abhijit, do you mind taking a screenshot of this?
No, I'm not able to see that. Can you send that results to me, Avneet, once more?
Yes, yes.
Thank you for keeping your camera on. That'll give us a feel that we are talking to some people. Request all the participants to keep the camera on so that we know who's who and whom we are talking to. So otherwise, it looks like I mean, for the speaker, it is very boring.
But again, only if you're comfortable. That's not mandatory thing.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's the best way to do because you feel that you're in a classroom and you are talking to your students. That makes the speaker and the SMEs. Oh, thank you so much. That's so lovely. Thank you.
Abhijit, I have shared the results, and
Yeah, I got
if
it.
you,
I got it. I got
yeah,
it.
if you want,
Anuj,
I'll share you screenshot
yeah, yeah,
also.
no issues, no issues.
Yeah.
Anuj, I think we should uh, start it without wasting time.
All right. So good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to see this. I mean, these many numbers of ladies during Navratri. So happy Navratri to everyone. And where should I begin? I think I'll start with few things that are kind of mandatory, I feel. Otherwise, I planned for discussion on few topics and the questions, but I'll come back to it after this. I'm sharing my screen, and what I want to understand from you is how many of you are here? How many of you have seen this page before?
We have.
I mean, can you write on chat yes, no, something like that. Particularly, I'm interested in no's. Yes, I'm good, but whoever not seen, no, I'm more interested. Right. So I've seen a lot of yes, but what is not, I mean, what is kind of interesting is I can see only 10 enrolled students here, right? That means that leads me to my next point. Are you using this particular link where you can see jobs for her towards end, or are you using a different link? If you're using a different link, please put yes on chat. Different link. So Abhijit, that is a concern for you, right? All right. So I'm going to share this link on chat again here, and I'll share this link on Google Classroom after the session, so that if you have not enrolled, I would request you to enroll. Uh, and I'm saying this for people who have actually not enrolled in different link yet. All right. So next thing I want to check with you is how many of you are here in this particular classroom? This is a Google Classroom page. Knows I'm more interested. So whoever has not joined this Google Classroom yet, please do join. And I have seen a couple of people ask few things here. We'll discuss that part. All right. If anyone doesn't have access to it, doesn't have link to it, please reach out to the team and they'll help you with that. But this is important. For instance, I have mentioned that what I'm expecting out of this session in one of my announcements a couple of days back. And this is going to happen before every session, right? Now, another thing, you can see there is a Google Drive link here, right? Which is a kind of very good feature that we can leverage. Now, how to leverage that part, I'll talk that part during my session, right? I'm keeping this side. So what I'm going to, considering the feedback that I've got from polls, what I'm going to do next is I will do some demonstration with examples which are relevant to Automation Explorer part. And if time permits, I will be able to cover all the part of it. I mean, I have designed it in a way that all the key concepts or core concepts that are discussed in Explorer should be covered. I'm audible clearly? Let me know if you find any trouble in that, right? Another thing is that if you look into it, this is how it is designed. It has two components. One is Automation Explorer, which we are going to discuss today. And next is this part. And the schedule I have shared, if you do not have access to it, you can find it on Google Classroom. I'll share it again on it. Towards the end of every section, you'll find this test. For example, in this section, Automation Explorer Assessment, and towards the end of it, you can see associate job for her assessment and so on. So this is going to be your, I mean, milestones. That's what you look into. And if you feel any challenge, you can write me on Google Classroom. Now, I want you people to write me in a specific way, and that I will discuss while I'm covering few topics. All right. So, shall we begin? Okay, one last question before that. How many of you have installed UiPath Studio? Anyone know? Please do let me know. Okay. So those who have not installed yet, right? What I'm going to do next is, though I have shared a link in my last session, I am going to share a video link today after this session. So you cannot, I mean, what we cannot afford to do is you work with me. Swati raised hand. Yes, Swati, please go ahead.
The link that you have shared where it says that 10 are enrolled. My link is different. How is it going to get merged? Or do I continue with the
No,
one
no, you're supposed to
that
continue.
has 4,000, 45,000?
You're supposed to,
I'm supposed to continue on that
yeah,
link?
you're supposed to continue on that link, right? And
Okay.
once you are done with that, please let us know. Abhijit, is that okay, right? Because I don't want to start from the beginning again. Abhijit, I'm audible. Do we have?
You're audible, Anuj.
Uh, Abhijit,
Abhijit,
you're
you are
not
not
audible.
audible.
Yeah.
You can type in chat box.
Okay, I'll discuss that part him once he's available.
Okay.
Abhijit, whenever you are back, please talk to us. Uh, the question is, should she continue with the old link, or she needs to join the new link that I've shared? I think she should continue on the old link because she has already done some part. I don't want her to continue or start from the beginning, but you decide. All right. So, uh, let me
Okay.
start with the proceedings of technical session. So how it is going to work is whenever we'll connect from next session, starting from today, we will uh, I'm going to ask you if you have any specific queries. Not ask it precisely. I'll wait for your questions on Google Classroom. If I don't find anything there, right, I will work on some examples in this live session, that the way I'm going to do today. And the way I'm expecting questions on the Google Classroom, I'll let you know in a while, right? Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover core concepts of Automation Explorer, starting from the uh, variable arguments and workflows. You can see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So one of the questions that somebody asked, Abhijit, you might want to answer on chat later. I mean, whenever you're free. Right? Okay, so this is going to be our first use case. And I'll tell you how it is going to work. Number one, I have created number of solutions for you, and whenever you'll see something, I'll try to discuss all the components of it. And if you need anything specific, you can ask me after the discussion of that particular workflow, right? Another thing, let me pull the things. All right. So I'm assuming you're familiar with what is variable, what is argument, what are constants, things like that. But how it is going to work with this particular environment, that is what we are going to discuss. Now, even before that, uh, I would like you to understand how you can benefit from this whole journey of your learning at max, right? You're looking at an IDE, right? By the end of this complete learning plan that you have on Academy, and while you're working with me, your objective should be you are familiar with all these buttons that you're looking on the top, you're looking at the bottom, for instance, activities, projects, snippets, output, breakpoints, error, and start working on that, right? When I say start working, that you should be, I mean, you should know what particular facility this feature is providing to us. We'll explore one by one. Not all of them are needed at once. So we'll go one by one and we'll see how it works for you, right? So some important things, some important areas of this platform. On the left, you can see something written as activities. This is one of the core things of this platform, right? I'll show you how. Another thing is project. This is where you have your main.xaml and any another XAML file you work with. I'll tell you what is this. So XAML files are actually the executable files in this particular environment, right? And when it comes to main.xaml, it is something similar that you might have seen in any programming language. You have a starting point of execution, that is main.xaml in this particular case, right? So with this particular example, I want to cover a few things like how to work with variables, how to work with arguments, and how to invoke workflows. And for the use case, we have a simple use case. Calculate sum workflow will be invoked here after configuration. That means that you're adding two numbers, and post that you're calling that particular workflow here. Now, I'm explaining right now. I'll tell you how to pull things here, right? For instance, I need this particular XAML file. So I'm going to click this one, right? Now this particular file has number of activities available here, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this in my main with some configuration settings, right? Now question is how to get these activities. How many of you know that how to pull these activities here? Okay, so let me start a new project, which is just for demonstration of activities. I'm going to tell you whenever I say that pull this particular activity, what it means actually. So I've just created a new project, and you have seen how to work with that. It will take some time to bring all the dependencies needed to work on that project. And it will have some by default files that are kind of mandatory to have this project running. It's taking longer than usual, otherwise it is not. Doesn't take that much time on my system. Okay. Now you can see there is a blank space on the right side. You have number of things available, and then you have properties, data manager, object repository. All that needs to be covered in this during this learning journey, not today. On the left, we have activities again. For example, now if I tell you that get an pull the activity for assignment, right? You will click on that particular activity and drag and drop here. That is one way, right? And which I follow because this also gives me a lot of more ideas that I'll tell you. Other way is you can search it for example, if I say bring an activity for log message. So you can double click here and it will be available here, right? So these are the ways to bring the activities here. Now, how this environment is different from others? Let's take an example of any other programming language. Let's say we talk about Java, right? There you have instructions to execute all the automation that you want to create or make, right? In this particular environment, you have a lot of GUI available that you can bring in for your work. However, fundamentals are not going to change. All the logic that you implement in your automation is through variables, arguments, control flows, right? It is there, but the way you are going to use it is different. You don't need to be an expert of .NET. Even I'm not an expert of .NET. I was primarily a guy of Python and Java and up to some level R. But I can work on this as and when needed, right? Because it is as simple as that to work on. So this is the way to bring in any activity that I ask for. Any question till now? Yes, no, yes, no. All right. So we are good there, how to bring an activity. Now, while we work on the examples, I'll let you know. Somebody asked how to start a new project, right? So, okay, let me start it from the beginning. I'm not going to save anything. We have UiPath Studio installed. I'm going to click this. Once you land up on this particular page, you have something written as process. You have a lot of things available, but we'll focus on what is needed. You have this process, and in this, once you click on this process, it will ask for name. You can give any name. For instance, I have given Hershakti demo. Then description is not kind of mandatory thing, right? But it is obviously a best practice to describe the intention of creating this project. And then simply click create on this, right? And once you click on create, you land up on your project the way we have created. Okay, so that was number one, how to pull activities. Second thing that you should know is during your course of discussion, we'll encounter number of situations when you'll see this particular tab. And inside that, you can see that you have dependencies. These are kind of mandatory. If you are doing something specific and that activity is not there, we can bring it. And we have managed packages for that. We'll see it at some point in time. And as I was talking about main, right? This is again a minimum requirement to run this file. So you can see that this is already created. However, there is nothing inside main yet, right? Since we have not saved. So all the thing, I mean, everything that you will create, you'll do it in this center screen, this area, right? And this plus sign is for adding new activities. Now, another thing is one workflow can be called as sequence. And since we are working on main, it is called main sequence. And whatever you create on this will be executed first, right? Now, I'm going back to my original example. I'll spend some time on this particular example just to make ourselves comfortable around the platform and the way I speak, the way you understand anything that I'm saying, you should be. By the way, Sumaya, are we good now on how to start project?
Yeah, it's okay right now.
All right. A system behave weirdly when I work alone. It always appears here. Anyways. Now, you'll see a lot of good things in this particular example and standard practices. Going forward, maybe even today or going forward in next sessions, I'm not going to discuss these things again, but just to make you familiar with the environment, right? On the top of it, you can see something written as invoke calculate sum workflow, right? So this is an invoke activity. If I ask you to bring an invoke activity, you'll simply type invoke on here on the left side, and you can see something as invoke workflow file, right? That is something that you need to bring in here. Drag and drop simple. Now you can see that we have changed the name. How? On the top of it, simply double click and you will be able to change the name of that particular activity. It is a best practice to name the activity as it is needed, right? That is number one. Next, you can see something written as calculate sum workflow will be invoked here. After configuration, if you have worked on any programming language, and I'm sure you have done, starting from C in your college days, there is something called comments, right? We used to comment something for additional information, just in case we come back to that code or that particular section. We should know what we are trying to achieve out of this particular section. So in spite of comments, so what we can do is we can use annotation here. How to do that? Right click on the top of it and annotate. Edit, and since we have already added, it is not showing add. Otherwise you can do, but we can add it, delete, and anything, right? So it is again a good practice, not mandatory. When I say something good practice, it is for easy debugging, easy learning, things like that. But if I'm saying something is mandatory, that means that you cannot run your program without that, and we'll see to it. Now, in this particular example, as I said, I want to cover a couple of things: workflows, use of arguments, and invoking of workflows. So let's see, do we have any variables here? You can see we have variables here. How I've reached here? At the bottom of this, this is variable, right? This is argument. Imports today not needed, and you will not need to use this import button, but you can see this at some point in time. So I click this variable here and I can see what we have inside. How can I create these variables? If somebody is using cursor, please avoid my screen. I am seeing that. All right. Okay, so simply you can double click here and write whatever you want. For example, we have some, we can do that, right? Next section talks about variable type. Now you can see it has number of data types. In this particular case, we need double, right? But we have option to browse types and we have hundreds and thousands of them, right? So we'll learn gradually what is needed based on, nobody can remember all of them, but as you grow as an automation developer, you'll learn that how to use all of these one by one, right? So some needs to be double. Execution info is another variable that is of type string. So we saw name, variable type. Next thing is scope, which is a very important aspect, right? Invoke scope says invoke workflow and arguments, where you have seen written this here, right? This is my main sequence, and it is saying that all of them, I mean, this execution info is accessible throughout this workflow. So that is what is defined. Once we'll have multiple, we'll see. Now I'm going back to any question till now on variables. Shraddha is saying, can you explain about generic type? Sure, will do. But as I said, I cannot handle all the trivial questions here, but it is going to be needed at some point in time, and we'll discuss there. It is something which you have in future, right? So one way of creating variable is this, right? Another way is you can use control plus K, right? Anywhere you want to create a variable, you simply need to you press Control and K. I'll show you that in any of these examples. So for this particular sequence, we have two variables. Now let me go back to the project where we have calculate sum. Now we already have one workflow calculate sum, so I double click. What if you want to create a new one, right? So you'll simply click on new and click on sequence and give it a name, right? Let's say test. And you can see that I have created another sequence that I can use. But since it is not needed, I'll simply delete this one. Make sure that you are saving your work often, and whenever you'll make change, you'll see a star here, and we'll try to see if we do something. For example, this I just did out underscore sum to out underscore s. You can see there is a star. That simply shows this workflow is not saved yet, right? So keep in mind when you are working on that. Now you saw something in red here. It is nothing but displaying an error. And once you hover over that particular red mark, you can see some error message, right? It is saying out underscore s is not declared, and so we'll know that there is some issue with this particular uh, workflow or activity, right? Now, since we are in the second workflow, let's see, do we have any variables here? So no variables are here, right? But do we have arguments here? Yes, we do have. Now I'm going to ask you a couple of things, and you can unmute and talk to me. All right. How many of you know the use of argument? Why do we need argument? Can anybody tell me? Anyone?
Hi, Anush.
Um, I can hear you, but you are not audible clearly. Can you be a bit loud?
Yeah, okay. Hi, is it audible now?
Yes, much better.
Yeah, arguments are used to pass the values from one sequence to then another sequence.
Awesome. I mean, you answered it perfectly. In fact, you answered in terms of this platform itself. So usually we need arguments to pass values to some other function, method, whatever you call it, right? So that is the whole purpose of arguments. And this platform is no different, but the way we work on it is different, right? Now, we'll see how it works, but let me tell you what you are looking at your screen. So once I clicked on this argument, right, I can see a number of arguments available, and that is going to be the place to add new arguments as well. I can add as much as I want here, right? But it is not needed, so I'm not going to use it. Okay. On the left, you see name, out underscore sum, then first value, and before that we have in, then we have in underscore second value, IO underscore execution info. Now there are two components. One is the name itself, and then you see out and in or IO out of it. Writing out in or IO is not mandatory part, but it is a best practice for yourself, because you won't be able to understand if you see something written like first value in a large process, right? So once you see this, you will be able to understand that it is something required for input as argument, right? Now we see something as directions. We have following type of directions: in, out, in, out. We'll talk about property in some other example. Now, can anybody tell me that what is an input argument or what is an output argument? Any clue? If not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to explain. So let's say this is A and this is B, which is nothing but let's say name of methods, right? If B needs some information and we need an argument for that, so for B it is going to be of in type, and for A it is going to be an out type. But for B, if B is passing out something for execution, it is out type. If there is any argument that requires both way communication, it is going to be IO type. Are we good here? And we'll see how it works here. But in terms of concept, are we good? What is in, what is out, and what is IO, right? And why we have used this name in IO out here. So I got few yes, which is cool. All right. So we have these many arguments, and obviously with some purpose, we'll discuss now what it is for. Let me minimize this section. Now we'll talk about activities one by one. Whatever you'll see, I'll explain, and if I'm explaining, that means it is of some purpose, because obviously all of them cannot be discussed in the session. So log execution info, right? This is something which you can probably use in large processes to make sure that you understand what is happening in your output panel. Once I will execute this workflow, you will be able to see this log message here. We have a dedicated chapter for messages and all, so we'll cover that. But why we have it here is only this purpose, and we have multiple log layers we'll discuss later. So, and message is IO underscore execution info, right? Where you have seen this? You have seen this in arguments, right? And it is of type nature in out. Now, next thing is, this is the core logic. Even if I don't have this on the top and what I have in the bottom, workflow will give the results, but it will not give you the proper information. So first thing is just for the information purpose. Then we have an assignment activity, right? And that you can bring it from here. Type search assign. I have it on tab, but just for your reference, assign and use it. Right now, save to. Whenever you have an assignment, you have worked on any language, whenever you do assignment, you have something on left side and then you have something on the right side. And we have the same thing available here, right? So out sum. is the variable where we are saving it. And you can see it is of type out nature. Now watch this part carefully. You can see value to save here, but it is not readable. So this is not exactly the place where you will write. If it is of small nature or short, you can write it here. But otherwise, click on that particular area, and this expression editor opens up. Now what we are doing is we are simply adding two numbers here, right? And I think this is quite understandable. Okay, last section is again execution information. We are using an assignment operator for that. What we are assigning in IO execution info, we are assigning this message. How we are writing this message, you can see if it is of something string nature, you have to put it in double quotes, right? So calculation completed is the message, and that we are passing to this argument, which is ultimately a variable. Are you aligned with me align me on this? Every argument that you talk is ultimately a variable to hold some value. Now, in this particular sequence or workflow, what we have done simply added two numbers. But what I want is to invoke this, bring this complete logic into my main program. That is what we used to do in any other programming language, right? You create number of functions, then you call it from the main function. That's how it works, right? And that is what we are going to do here, right? So for that reason, you need one activity called invoke. Again, see the use of activities here, right? You have an operation invoke, you will search for an operation invoke. So let me do this for simplify. Okay, another learning. If you want to comment out, or the purpose of commenting out something is to disable it, you can simply right click and disable it, right? Now, if I want to invoke a workflow, I'll search for it, drag it, and then it will ask what workflow you want to bring in. Swati is asking, is it possible to look at the code that is generated once we design the workflow? No, this is a GUI based. There is no code at the back end of it, but you can, whatever you're coding is visible to you, right? Now, okay, let me go back there. So we need to invoke something and we need to find what is that, right? So you will click on this folder symbol. And as soon as you'll click on that, it will open up all the files of the same project on which you are working. But you can go to any other place as well. Since I'm interested in this one, I'll simply choose this and open. And you can see that it is invoked, right? Now I'm going back to my original example. And for that, I would require it to enable again. Somebody is okay. Now another thing is, once you invoke something, you will see something written as import arguments. If there are no arguments, it will show 0. If there are multiple arguments, it will show import arguments. And you are supposed to click on this, double click, right? As soon as you'll click on this, you will see all the arguments available there, right? And then you may decide what value you want to provide that, right? I have hard coded it, but you can also give it customized input, providing some variables, taking input from user, whatever way you want, right? Now, I have given it 50.5, 30.5, and sum is a variable that I have available here. And execution info, as you have seen in the variables. Let me show you. Okay. So execution info and sum, that is something which I have added there, right? So you are supposed to, and another thing that you might want to look into is, okay, this number you are looking is in blue, right? If it is in orange, that means it requires some action. If it is in blue, that means it doesn't require an action, right? You have already synced it with the necessary workflow. And the last part of this main workflow is log result, which says execution. Okay, let me show you this. Execution info, which we are fetching from the calculate sum, plus, which is a concatenation operator. That means it will simply add two strings. Result is, this is a pure string. As you can see, it is placed between two double quotes, plus sum to string. Now, sum is something which is carrying my result of two numbers. Dot to string is required to convert that number into a string, because we cannot concatenate integer to a string directly. So we'll convert it back to the string and then we'll concatenate it, right? So anything that you want to ask about the logic of what you have seen till now, and tell me what is the next step I should do, because I've already given you a hint of that. You can unmute or put it on chat, but quickly, since we are running out of time.
Save it.
Yeah, go ahead. Somebody was saying something, that is it for me? Am I audible?
I have a question.
I
Can I return more than one out variable?
Yes, as many as you want. You are talking about this section, right? This part you are saying, right?
Right.
So you
We
see that.
have in, out. Yes.
So there is only one in out, and I have already explained what is the purpose of in out. But the question you have is, can we have multiple outs? Yes, you can have, because why is that? Currently, you have one
Correct.
assignment. You have already only one assignment here, right? And suppose you have another assignment for multiplication,
Yeah.
another assignment for subtraction. You'll need out for all of them, right? Is it,
Yes.
is it okay?
So if there is more than two variables, then
Yes. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you can have as many as you want depending on the logic you are implementing, right? For instance, as I said, this is one assignment for sum only. But if you want to have multiplication and then you want to have subtraction, you will do all your calculations here, and you will need out arguments for all of them to run here, right? And but also you'll at the same time you'll need variables parallel to it. For example, sum, then you will need multiplication, then you will need subtraction, anything, any name you want to give. But important is you will have to place those values here, right?
and why this variable type is string? Like if the out, even though the output is a number.
Which one? Execution info?
Yeah.
Execution info is of string type only. Let me show you. You see, execution info we are using for the messaging only, log execution information. By default, its type is string only for all the information that you're writing here. Any type, any log label you're maintaining is of string type by default, right? But what you are asking is output is of type number.
Yeah.
So the output you are looking at is of numbers, only this part. We are using execution info for the log purpose, and towards end of our process, we are merging all that information at once, right? And execution info is string, result is string. Then we are converting number, the one you are saying that why we are having it in a string.
Yeah.
So we are converting number to string to write it. That is kind of rule that you need to follow, right? You cannot merge a string with number. You can only merge string with a string, right? So that's why we either will convert something from string to number, or we'll convert number to string. But we cannot convert execution info into number for any possible reason, right? So what should be my next step, if we can say it quickly?
Save it and then run.
Awesome. This is what I wanted to hear. Next step should be save, because you can see star on the top of it, right? So saved. Now I'm going to run, and this is kind of first execution. So I'll tell you a couple of things. We have run file, we have debug, and we have run. When you click on run, it will execute from the main workflow. When you click on run file, you can choose which file you want to run, right? For testing, if you want to run only this section, if it is having any error, you'll simply click on run file. We'll see these things in coming time. And debug is for debugging mode, but to get it more detailed, this is the section you will be working on in some time, debug mode. And this is, I'll talk about it. I don't think we'll be able to cover everything, but I'll give you all that is needed to work on this platform better. So I'm going to run it for the first time. Let's see how it works. So it executed, and you can see the output here. And calculation completed, result is so, right? And then it is also giving some additional information, which is kind of less needed for us, but it will be of importance once you dive into the complex projects. Now, since we are on this page, let me show you a couple of things. On the top of output, you can see number of symbols. One is saying show time elapsed, timestamps, right? So once I click it, you can see what happened at what, right? Similarly, if you hover on next symbol, it is for errors. Since we don't have any errors, it is showing 0. Next is for warnings. We don't have any warnings, it is showing 0. Next is for information. We have 4 informations available, you can see here. And this blank phase, don't get confused, it is execution time only. Next is what it is. Okay, it is a trace. So whatever we have, you'll come to understand about trace. We do need it in complex project, because we put log messages after every possible logic implementation to check if it is working properly. Point 1, point 2, point 3, and we have something called breakpoints as well. We'll see to it later. And then we have past as, since we have not implemented any assertions and we don't have any plan as of now. So these are talking about assertions, past assertions, and failed assertions. This is particularly useful when you are doing testing. All right, so this was about the first example. The objective of it is to make you familiar with variables, how to work on variables, how to work on arguments, how to create different sequences, how to invoke a particular sequence to other sequence, which is nothing but main, and how to configure arguments. at small level. We'll have a number of examples in our learning plan to discuss it in more detail. Okay, we can cover a lot of things. Okay. Next example, I have prepared for like 6 different examples, but I think we will be able to cover, not able to cover all of them, but let's see. So I am moving on to my next example. Which will talk about control flows. Uh, can anyone tell me what is a control flow, or give me a name of a control flow on chat or unmute anyway. Anyway, by the time it is loading up for me. Yes. Yes, I've got a couple of answers that make sense, right? So for each, if else, switch, while, do while, for each, and then switch, whatever. I mean, all of these are control flows. And these are kind of key components for implementing any intelligence to your code. You might want to think about my statement. Any intelligence you see in your logic implementation is because of these things, right? And we'll see, I mean, depending on use cases, how it works. So we'll take some examples, few things here. In this particular use case, we are going to separate a collection of error codes using for each and switch activities. This is what we are going to do in this particular workflow. Now, let me show you. Few things. Let's start with the variables and we'll take it one by one. Error codes. Error code is one variable that we have and it is of type string array. And you can see this falls under system. System is the package, right? Another, you saw that system data table. Gradually, you'll have to explore things as you need, right? So this particular variable is of type string array. And I'm assuming you know array, but those who don't know, array is a data type that can hold multiple values of similar type, right? And we have given scope for this. Scope of this is a complete sequence itself. Now we have given some values to it. This section we haven't covered earlier. Now you can see, right? We have already given some values to it. And you might want to look into how it is placed. Let me open Notepad. So you see that it starts with a curly bracket, ends with a curly bracket. Every value that you want to give is placed inside double quotes and separated by comma. This is how an array works in this platform. All right. So we'll come back to variables again later. Now, first thing, for each, suppose we have an array and we want to iterate over something. What you need is for each. Now you see a number of for each available. And this is what I was talking about, why I prefer to use this section rather than double click what I have shown you in the beginning. Now you can see that this for each falls under data table. That means that it is not of my interest. This falls under file, which that shows which it is not of my interest. because this for each is created to iterate over rows in a data table. This for each is created to iterate over files in a folder. This for each is created to iterate over folders in a particular folder, right? So directory within directory, you know that, right? Now this simply tells me control, right? And so that and that tells me that this is my right activity to pull in, right? So this is what we have already here. I'm trying to elaborate how to use activities, because that is one of the key components that you're going to use again and again. Now, as soon as you will pull in this for each activity, you will see this current item followed by in. That means this is the variable that you are going to iterate, and this is where you want to iterate, right? In body is what you want to do once you have an iteration scenario. It is somewhat like you used to write it like this, right? For followed by you used to have this scenario, right? For followed by some looping scenario of I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 10, I plus plus so on, and then you have your logic here, right? And same thing is designed in GUI here, where you have for each, where to iterate, and then you'll implement your logic here in some way, right? And that we are going to do now. Now we have for each error code named already, commented, annotated already. Now in for each, this is something which you can choose in real time. It's not something that you will see here, right? This is not something that you want to have in a specific way, but this is where you want to iterate, and that is what we have created here, error codes, string array type, and it has some values where you want to iterate. Once you have this iteration scenario, what you want to do, right? Next thing that we did is we brought in switch here. Let's search for the switch. You can see switch here, right? And you can relate it with the symbols as well. This talks about the switch, and then we have something in flow switch. Flow switch is more related to flow charts. So this is not my thing right now. So once I will bring switch here, it will look similar to this. You'll have an expression, and then you'll have default use case. Then you can add your use case. Like you can see at the bottom of here, add new use case. New case, not use case, my bad. Now, what we want to do, let me come back to this. What we are planning to do here is, we have this array, and we want to capture all the elements of this array which in one group which has similar type of error codes. For example, AX 001, AX 002, and similarly 003. Then we want to have a B series, then we want to have C series, and so on. Right? This is our objective out of it. So for that, what we want to learn is, what we want to do is, since we want everything that is related to AX at one place, then BX at one place, and then CX at one place, what we know is that we are focusing on first two elements of this item, right? For that, we will implement the logic value. Why value? Because you see, we are iterating with the help of value. This is the variable which will have one item value at one point in time, right? Substring, this is a method of string which will fetch substring from a string from starting point to end point. Now 0 to 2 and dot to lower. Dot to lower is not kind of mandatory, but just keeping it for your knowledge. It will convert these values into lower cases, right? Let me go back here and see. So it is 0 and it is 1, and the way it is written, 0 2. So last one is excluded, right? So you need to remember that how this thing works. The initial point is 0 and the last one is excluded. So A is 0, X is 1, and 2, that is 0, is excluded. So we are fetching only the first two elements of each item. And if we find that is similar to what we need, we will merge it. That is what we are going to achieve. Now let's see how it works. Now next question is, where will hold this information? And that is, for that region we have three types of arrays: AX array, BX array, and CX array. I don't need to repeat myself here on how this variable type is brought in. But what you need to learn is this part. As soon as you're trying to create an array, it should have initialized. In this case, we have given already some values. In this case, we don't have any values, right? But you will do this new string followed by double, what do you call it? Open brackets, then followed by curly brackets, right? It doesn't have any value, but it will be initialized. If you don't know what is initialized, I would ask you to search. Now, we are going to use all of these variables one by one. Let's see the first thing. I hit on default, and you can see that what we are getting inside this default is sequence for default case for switch. It is a warning, and the message that I have written here is no corresponding error code was found for whatever value that it has for. Let's say it has CX or AX or whatever. So it will give that value. This is default case. And let me tell you, this is something which is not available by default. It is something that you are pulling from this activity. So whatever logic you want to add here, you can do that. My first case is AX. You can see here, right? Case X. So before that, even add a new case. For instance, I want to use a case DX, right? So a DX case is created, but no logic is implemented here, right? So that is what you are looking at on the top of it. So let me go back here. What we are going to do here is we are concatenating an array. How we are doing that? With the help of assignment operator. You see, how do I know this is an assignment operator? With the help of this symbol itself, X. Now we have name of variable AX array. What we are going to do is AX array followed by dot. These are syntax like any other language. You have to learn and follow these. Followed by concat, followed by value inside double open brackets. Since we are passing a variable, not value directly, it has to be placed within curly brackets, followed by dot to array. It needs to be converted in array type. That's why it is to array. Any question in this? If it is clear, we are good with others as well. I see nothing. Okay. I consider it okay. Okay, so in the same fashion, we'll add case BX and case CX, and towards the end. Now, another thing that you want to look into is for each sequence completed after my switch, right? That all logic is implemented. After that, next thing that we want to do is we want to log things, right? How we want to log things? With this message. Whatever we have in AX array, whatever we have in BX array, whatever we have in CX array. We have placed everything in a log message, and we should be able to see all that information in output now. So I'm going to run it. If you have any questions, you can ask now, because we are already running out of time, and I'll take one more example after this. Okay. It is saying a system dot null reference exception. So it seems like we have something which doesn't have a proper data type. Let me see if I've changed anything. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Which is not the case here. Okay. Okay, there's nothing wrong with the code. I'll figure out what it is, why it is showing an error. I'll come back to you on this in my next session. Let me take up another example. If you have any questions on this, please ask. Anything? All right. And now, can I continue, or it's a hard stop? Can I continue for another 15 minutes, because next one will take some time.
Anuj, can you show us how to publish a process before?
Absolutely. That is, see, you are, what you're asking is kind of important aspect of this whole environment, and it will happen once we'll reach out to the next phase of our discussion. Once we'll reach out to orchestrator, then we'll discuss about it, right? Publish is more related to orchestrator part. So once we'll reach there, we'll discuss. But anyways, if you have already connected to cloud, you can simply click on this. And
I completed also, like I using UiPath Assistant, I could run the but I didn't understand the flow. Like what was going on, I didn't understand. I simply like mechanically I followed the steps and it worked. So that is
okay. So we'll cover that part. But I have some agendas for today. So let's figure out. And if you have already reached to a point way ahead than others, what you can do is you can write me on Google Classroom that this is what you need to see in the discussion, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Uh, uh, so team, can I continue?
Yes.
Any hard times and all? Alekia, can I continue?
Yes, yes, Anuj sir. You can.
All right. All right. So next thing that we are going to see is I had number of things, but now since we have limited time, I want to discuss something.
Actually, you can. We are already out of time, but we have started 10 minutes delay, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can give another example or like 10-15 minutes. You can take, no issues, Anuj.
All right, all right, all right.
Also, Anuj, one more thing. I encountered the same error, null pointer exception, when running array, the same code.
Mhm.
I also could not debug it, but when I restarted Studio, it magically the array error went off.
So, see, that's what I said. I know that there is nothing wrong with my code or the logic that I've implemented. I'm sure about it. But what happens is that since we have not published it and it is using machine environment, sometimes it doesn't get what it wants from the operating system or you can say backend, right? So it's not something faulty from your end, and it is faulty from you can say the environment's end, right? And you can see the same things happening with any other language. That's not a big deal. It depends on a lot of things, memory that you are using, how much cache you have, uh, where you're placing your, where are you saving your projects, a lot of things. All right. Uh, Next thing is that we are going to cover is about workbook and data table activities. And this is going to be last for the day, but there are other important things that I wanted to cover and which are huge in nature. Actually, one example alone may take like 2 or 3 hours. So we'll see. If you guys were able to do it, perfectly all right. Otherwise, if you will work on Automation Explorer, you'll find uh, some projects on Acme to retrieve invoices and all, right? So we'll see if it is viable. But what I'm going to do is, anyways, I will share all the examples on Google Classroom after this session. And if you find any problem with that, you can let me know. One thing is pending since beginning, that how I want to see your questions on Google Classroom. So before I take up this example, let me do that first, because that is a key component. So this is your Google Classroom, right? Suppose you want me to help you with something, you will you will write your query here and put your code. When I say your code, this is your code, this is your project. You can go to your project from here. This is how your project looks like, right? So what you're going to do is you will share this complete folder with me in your Google Drive link and give me access to it, right? So what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to see your project here and your query I'll have, and I'll execute it at my end, and then we'll discuss. This way we'll be able to utilize our time in best possible way. Otherwise, you can imagine with 40, 50 audiences, if I take individual queries, we'll not be able to cover everything. That's why I wanted. Am I clear on this? How I want to see Google Classroom queries? Quickly, yes, no on chat.
Can you repeat it, please?
Right. What I want is, this is your Google Classroom where you can communicate with me, right? Write your query, write your query here. Followed by link of your code, right? When I say link of your code, how it will look like? This is your, so for instance, this is your code. You can go on project, you can click on folder, you can see this file explorer symbol here. Click here, and then you will see your files. Right? What I need from you is this complete folder of your project. For instance, if you're working on this project, right? You will copy and paste this particular folder in your Google Drive, OneDrive, wherever you want, and share that link with me with Excel. Are you good now?
Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay. Now let me get into the project mode. Till now we were working some. We were doing some trivial things. Which we call fundamentals. Now, suppose you are working on a project, right? And whenever you work on a project using this particular platform, essentially you are working on a process, right? For instance, uh, let's say you want to update the number of days of salary for all the employees in your organization. So if you want to do that, you must be following some process, right? You want to get information of number of days from one place, then you want to place that information at some system. Step one followed by step two and followed by step three. What is needed is whenever you are working on this type of project, first you make sure that you know all the steps of process, right? To implement those steps, you will require activities and different things that you see on your environment, but that design is critical, right? Otherwise, it is going. I mean, it may not end up in a or say it may not end up helping you in speed up your process, right? Another thing that you might want to look into is how many of them you want to create separately. When I say so, in my first example, I showed you that I had a main, then I created a separate sequence calculate sum because it had a different functionality. Similarly, we may have multiply uh, two numbers. Similarly, we may have subtract two numbers. All of them had different functionality, and we may want to create different workflows or sequences for that, right? So it's important you create those processes. If we get time, we'll see how it works. Now, what we are going to do in this particular example, we have an Excel sheet, which I'm going to show you. It looks like this. Here we have name of vegetable, production per month, quantity, storage zone, vendor's name, and price per kg. This is how it looks like. This is my input and the output file as well. So once we have this, what we want to do next is you want to add a column to this sheet, then, and you see that we are doing step by step. We'll read the Excel, we will add column to it, and then we'll write something on that column with the help of for each. We'll do this, right, one by one. So this is the use case. So let's start with the first one. What we are doing here is we are supposed to read that Excel file that I've just showed you. How we are going to do that? Now, can anyone tell me which of these I'm using on the right side? Out of these three.
Range workbook.
The first one, right? First one. Okay. How did you recognize that?
The icon.
Okay, that is one very good thing. Again, if I write read range, well, you can see a lot of read range here. Excel, then within Google, then we have workbook. Now, since what we have just seen is a workbook, I'm going to use read range of workbook, and we'll see other spaces of Excel as well in some time. So this is what we are using. As soon as you'll bring in, you'll see these two fields. Let me show you. You can see these two fields here, right? Workbook path and followed by the sheet name. These two are mandatory fields without which you cannot use this. And you can see on the top there is an error because of that. So when it asks for workbook path, you can simply click here and browse which Excel you want. It not necessarily has to be in your project. Since I have kept it here, it is showing me here, but you can have it anywhere on your system. Followed by sheet name. Now my sheet name was I think sheet 1 or something. Let me see. It is tracker. So this is the sheet which I want to read. I'm going to delete this part which is going to be updated. So these two things I'm going to update: the name of the file with extension within double quotes, followed by the name of sheet, and that is tracker sheet, right? Since we are using a workbook, it may have multiple sheets and we can ask for reading all of them one by one. So as soon as we read it, what happens next? Now you are going to see first time properties. If we are reading something, that means the information must have captured somewhere. And if information has been captured somewhere, it has to be pulled as well, right? That is the whole scenario. Now, whatever we have done, you can see on the right side as well. Sheet name, workbook path, these two are mandatory. Range, we can specify what we want to read. Since if by default, it will read everything that is available. Next is add headers, right? The sheet that I showed you had headers. If you want to write those headers as well, you will check this part, right? Now, the output of this activity. For that, we need a variable, right? I'm copying this. Now it is vacant and we cannot read anything out of it unless we do have a relevant output variable, right? Now I told you there is another way of creating variable. I can simply click Control K and you see that set variable. What I did is Control K. You can see that it showed set variable. Now I'll paste it back. Name you can choose any, but it is a good practice to give it a relevant name. Now DT represent data table underscore followed by production tracker. Since it is already exists, it is saying that you can use it. Now these silly things happen sometimes. Like this. Okay, followed by this. I haven't done anything new. It is just that it is not taking it earlier. So after this activity, we have all the data read and it is available with the help of one variable, that is dt underscore production tracker. That is what we want to write in the next sheet. Now, next thing is add estimated value data column. So we had an Excel sheet. In that Excel sheet, we want to have a different sheet with an additional column that we are going to implement. Now for that, you can see one activity here, right? What I'm going to do is add data, and you can relate it, right? Add data column here. And that is what we have here with all that information is needed. Again, it has a few things that necessarily needed. One is column name, which is estimated value. And the data table that I have just created is going to be the source for it. So that is placed here, right? A data column object that is to be appended. Since we are using something written in Excel, it is not needed here, right? The next part is once we have a new sheet available, new data column available, what we want to do is we want to iterate over production tracker. Production tracker, the variable that we have just created. Now, what we have here is for each row in production tracker table, let me show you how it is different from. Again, you see a lot of for each Excel sheet, email, not needed, file folder, not needed. For what we need is for each row in data table. And that is what we have here, right? So if I'm working in real time, I would have pulled this one. And once you pull it, again, you'll have two components. One is on which variable you want to run. It's something similar to for I is equals to 1, then I is less than equal to, and so on, right? And where you want to search that. So this is a real-time variable, and this is what you have already. You have to have data inside it. Then this is the body part where you have to implement your logic. Now in my implementation, I have simply assigned it. How we have assigned it? Let me show you. Current row, estimated value. This is where we want to capture the information. Once I'll execute, you'll see. Now what we are doing here is, let me open the Excel again to make it more clear. So we have quantity here, we have price per kg here. If we multiply it together, we will get production, right? Quantity, this is quantity, and this is price per kg. And in the next sheet, we'll have production tracking with these values. So we are simply multiplying these things. Now, the important aspect is no, I'll talk about it, Shraddha. We'll have many more examples in coming time, so don't worry about it. So this part is important, right? What you are looking at right now. Current row always talks about what it is reading currently in data table, right? So what we want to do is we want to read quantity value of current row and multiply it with the per kg price of current row. But we cannot do it directly. So it has multiple components starting from the left side. C int, that is cast as integer, right? Whatever you have in that particular column, cast it as integer from where current row followed by quantity. As I said, if you are using a variable, it has to pass as in double quotes inside it. And then the braces closed, followed by asterisk, which is multiplier. Then cast as decimal. What? Current row price per kg, because prices may have decimal values. Depends how you want to go about it. So we are simply multiplying these two values and assigning it to the estimated value, that is the new column value. Once you have this information in the data table, you are going to write everything inside, in that particular sheet again, or I should call it workbook again with a different name. We'll see one by one. Okay. So before I end up, let's see what kind of writes we have. We haven't seen any write yet. We are going to write range workbook. Why it is range workbook? Because somebody is asking about if you want to read different sheets. Similarly, if you want to work on multiple sheets, you are going to use read range workbook. If you are going to write on multiple sheets, or different worksheets are there inside that workbook, you are supposed to use write range workbook. Once you pull this, you'll have these three things available. First thing will ask you about where you want to write. If you don't have a file existing, you will write it, it will create one file for you, right? It is not something that has to be present already. Now, where you want to write it, we are giving a different sheet name, that is tracker updated. From where you want to write it, dt underscore production tracker that we have created earlier. Now, once I'll run it, we'll see what difference does it make, and then the whole process will make sense to you again. Now, how to look into this multiple things, right? So it is saying that execution ended in so time. That means it is successfully executed. Otherwise, if it has been showing an error, you would have known that in red. Now let me open the file again. Now you see that besides the tracker, we have a new sheet, tracker updated, which I have deleted earlier, and it has estimated value inside it, calculated. Right. So these are some simple use cases that we have discussed today. Let me show you last couple of things that I'm going to share with you. And I want you to work on those if you have not done already. Right. So we have covered these three, which are fundamentals, but without this discussing, without covering these aspects, you cannot learn things that we have further. This is the largest use case that we have. It will work for you on your system if you will run it directly. But what I want from you is learn how it works, right? And you'll have the theory part of it available on the link that is shared by Abhijit, or I have shown you like Jobs Hub. So that is available there. I want you to learn how it works, run it, create it. Just in case you stuck somewhere, write to me that I stuck at socio activity. Now, how will you check that you stuck at socio activity? Simply click on this debug and run it in a debug mode. It will stop at the activity where it found an error, right? So try to learn how to find, try to find an error, how to explain the error. That is going to be the key component. Coding is nothing, implementation of logic and debugging it, right? You can do everything if you know how to debug it. Right, so I'm going to share all of these with you after this class. Now, I'm done for the day. If you have any questions, anything, let me know. But please, I request before I wrap up, whenever you come next time, follow the schedule that I've shared with you. You remember that? Everyone knows the schedule. Let me know if you don't have access to schedule or you don't know what is the schedule that we are following. Anyone? All of you know the schedule? Yes, no, on chat, please, quickly. Okay, I got one yes. So, but I'm going to again, I'll post it on Google Classroom again. Very important to leverage this time. See, this whole course is of duration 44 hours, and I'm going to connect with you for around 8 hours or 9 hours or maximum 10 hours. I may schedule an additional session just in case needed. To leverage it completely, it's important that you learn with me and before me. When you learn before me, and then we'll connect, it will take less time for you to capture, right? That is very important. So happy learning, and if you have anything, please write me on. Okay, so no, not an issue. Today we are out of time. Share. What I'll do is just for you. In the next class, I'll quickly run the publish for you first instance, right? But if you have questions, write me questions on Google Classroom so that I can schedule it. I can prepare in a way that it takes less time. If you'll not post me questions, I'll again come up with examples like today, right? That is my plan. If you'll ask me questions, that will be my whole agenda to cover in my session. That is the whole thing I'm supposed to do. But since you didn't have much questions around previous learning, I covered examples, and that is going to be my approach in during uh, interactions with you. Is UiPath Assistant same as home page of UiPath site once we log in? No, it is a different thing. Let me quickly show you UiPath Assistant, how it looks like. This is UiPath Assistant, and Sudeepni is asking about publishing. Once you publish something, it will be available here. Okay. It will be available in your list. I don't know where all my publishing went. So you can see all your published automations here, and you can simply click on those automations to run that. right?
Anush, your screen is not being shared, I think.
Oh my God. In
It's very.
in the interest of time, I did it for myself. What screen is visible to you right now? You can see your participant, is it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that is how it looks like. And it comes along with UiPath Studio. As soon as you download UiPath Studio, it automatically gets installed. But what it needed is you should be connected with cloud, right? I'm connected with my cloud, and that is where it is green right now. So we'll see everything gradually. You need to publish your stuff there. That's more or less needed. Anything else? All right. Thanks for today. It took some 30 minutes additional, but whenever you come to this class, please keep a buffer of 30 minutes. Technical things, or whenever you are in session, you have questions, I have number of things to say. It happens in that way. Alekya, I think I'm done for the day.
Yes.
You take it from here.
Thank you so much, Anush.
One small question, like regularly we getting, I think everybody is getting mails on default tenant in our mails. So is
Okay.
that alert summary from UiPath platform? Is that something we should be considering?
No, that is not something you need to worry about. It's just that you have access to your cloud. That is more important, right? And those who have not installed a video, UiPath Studio yet, what I'm going to do is I'm sharing a link here on chat, and I'll post the same link on Google Classroom as well. Those who want to follow that.
Yes, we'll share the link on WhatsApp group also, Anush, for them.
Sorry, you're not.
We'll share the link on WhatsApp group also. They have one group in WhatsApp.
This is just for installation of
Yeah.
the studio, right?
Okay, Anush, we'll wrap
All
up
right.
for today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And the next session would be SME. Next session would be on 18th October.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, ladies. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll wrap